I think we could just talk about Elvis.
Oh,
Let's just talk about Elvis. Yeah. Let's just talk about Elvis. Yeah.
Lily, and the reason I say we can talk about Elvis is because what Lily hasn't told us is that she secretly has a PhD in the subject. Like, apparently this is something she has studied and knows every detail of Elvis's
this is amazing.
life, known and unknown.
Save the good stuff for the show. All right.
Is my cold open?
Together with Suspicious Minds, because today on the Friday Night Movie Podcast, we are going to talk about Elvis, not just the musician, singer, star, but the Baz Luhrmann film. And then we're going to do some recs and some other stuff. But before we get into that, just check in with my sisters, Lily and Becky. Lily, how you doing?
I'm pretty good. I've dealt with a few classic summer sick kids kind of events this week.
Typical ER visits.
Two separate kids, two separate ER visits, one same day. So it's just one for the books. But other than that, I'm very excited for our vacation.
Less than a week, we will all be together.
Reunited. So I'm very excited.
And if you want to spend a lot of time with me on this vacation, like very close quarters, all you have to do is stay with me in the room that you reserved for me in the beach house that we rented. Because as I understand it, you made sure I got the smallest room. Again,
they're all small. Yours is the size of a stamp. It's like a dollhouse room.
Yeah. Is there a toilet in it?
Does it come with...
There's
an air conditioner and a toilet, and I've heard, Shai, you can touch both of them at the same time while laying on your bed.
That's an upgrade from last year, so I think we're in great
because shape. There's air conditioning in this one.
My only requirement for vacation is Wi-Fi and air conditioning. Everything else is negotiable.
Okay, what if instead of Wi-Fi and air conditioning, we have everything else for you?
Nope.
I can run through the list of things. There's a trampoline. There's a swimming pool. No,
a trampoline.
We have a trampoline.
I made sure though to ask the person we're renting the house from.
It's one of those situations, and I'm not going to get into it. But all we need is Mom on the podcast, and she can rattle off
all the things. Forever. But I did ask them to make the floor of your room as moist as possible, because
they're just going to put wet towels all over it,
like a humid floor.
I don't ask for a lot. Now on the big vacation I'm on right now with my in-laws, who I can confidently say will never listen to this podcast. Allie put her foot down this year. And after 5 years of
Allie bringing the heat.
Yeah, after 5 years of us having the small room, even though it was supposed to alternate every year, Allie put her foot down and said, I shall not go into the night or whatever, whatever it is, and declared that we would sleep in the big room, in the big bed. But what I didn't know, all these years of sleeping in the small room where we shared the bathroom with all of the children in the hallway, so that whenever you used it and you walked out, you'd always see everybody in the house. But this bedroom also has a bathroom that is the size of the small bedroom that we were in, with
amazing.
Like a massive
serious upgrade.
So Allie's sister could sleep in there.
Or your nephew.
Put a cot in there.
And a porch. So
the bathroom has a porch?
Yeah. So I just thought it was a big room, but it's actually kind of real. It's a real amenities situation here. So
you had never been allowed to look in,
but I'm confident. Years. I'm confident the thing that broke her though was vacation with you guys. That's so everything would have been coasting along.
To the extreme.
What is it? Run them up and fill them out?
Yes. Oh my God. Already watched Dorsey a second time. All right. So now we're going to talk. Oh, wait, Becky, do you have anything to report?
No. Okay. All right. Life is hard.
Well,
but
no, I think you have to report.
That's a great line.
I think you have to report Lily's
A discovery Becky made of me
Your
yesterday.
discovery
So
about your
here's so Lily
sister.
has been hawking me. Lily's been hawking me for weeks, months about wanting to see Elvis. And I'm like, yeah.
Which I assumed was because of Baz Luhrmann.
It was Baz Luhrmann because we
sure.
love Baz Luhrmann. Of course, she wants to see it, and I don't know.
I think
Lily
it's not
likes
Baz.
it. Lily
Who said it's Baz.
Baz Luhrmann.
Baz, like Brian
Baz.
Bosworth. Like Brian Bosworth.
You say Baz Luhrmann because you're from Montreal, and you also say pasta and almonds. That's why you say Baz Luhrmann. But I think the rest of us call him Baz Luhrmann.
What's that word that I mispronounced that you guys made fun of with Howie? Oh, Eric Banya.
Eric Bana. Yeah, it's
Bana.
It's Banya's Lerman.
So she's been talking about this, and I figured, okay, Lily, I guess likes a biopic, maybe, but I know she
which
loves
I pronounce biopic.
So she's been hacking me about this, and I'm like, okay, like I guess I want to see it, but I wasn't particularly moved or in a rush to see it. But Lily moved mountains to make sure we could all sit down together. She got a babysitter. We started it at 6:00 in the evenings. We'd have plenty of time, organize dinner, like all this stuff, so we could make sure to sit and watch this movie, which I will say our plans are at 6. We did not finish the movie until midnight. It took us 6 hours to watch a 2.5 hour movie.
To watch 2.5 hour movie.
Because there's just so much chaos here. Tenerife is a time wormhole. I'm telling you.
This is
wormhole.
Already making me anxious. Oh my God.
As the movie is going on, as the movie begins, before a scene would start, like before the next phase in Elvis' life would be revealed, Lily would give you a small dissertation on what was about to happen in his life, all of the outcomes of that, both cultural significance, personal stakes for him, like this in-depth.
But she hasn't just been reading Wikipedia in the lead up to this.
It got to the point. I actually figured she was on her phone reading Wikipedia as we were going.
I didn't use my phone the whole movie.
I've actually read books about Elvis.
It really got to a point where she was giving such specific details about Elvis and Priscilla's relationship, like the timeline of from when they met to when they had their first kiss.
So I have a question on that. Just that.
I can answer.
Keep going, Becky. Keep going. I would like to know.
Then I was like, Lily, what is happening here? Why do you know so much? Why do you care so much? It turns out she has actually studied Elvis in college. Lily took a course and studied Elvis.
Well, not the whole course is about him,
Elvis secret academic.
I wouldn't go that far, but
wait, you took the history of rock and roll class that I took.
Yeah, but that's not. But in cultural studies, he's often like analyzed and brought up, and like just his persona and his influence on art, Lily kitsch. It's like a whole thing.
Has a secret dissertation on the history of Elvis and his cultural impacts that she took us through as her own personal arc while we were watching the film. It was pretty wild.
Well, I
don't know how much other people like the movie, but I learned so much about Elvis. I had my own director's, not commentary, thesis going on in the background.
I feel like I've absorbed a lot because I really love music history. Elvis, as a music person, like I've always been pretty fascinated with it. And then in 2004, when Danny Newman and I did our Southern road trip, we went to Graceland and we ate a pimento cheeseburger at the Gridiron, where apparently Elvis, I think every restaurant says like something on their menu. Something on their menu is the thing he used to order, because we want banana and bacon peanut sandwiches, and they were like, "We don't serve that. Nobody eats
peanut butter, right?"
It's peanut butter, bacon, and banana.
So I'm like very fascinated with, and I'm particularly fascinated with the later period. Like,
really? I thought you'd be more fascinated with the early period, with the influence on the blues and the rock and roll.
I'm interested in that because it's really important to the history of music.
Right.
But in terms of like the part of the story that I find like very, 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 very interesting to me, because it's kind of often made fun of, and therefore it's not respected as much. Like it's the early part of Elvis, I think, has been taken apart, rightly so, in many different ways and been analyzed. But that later period in the 70s where he's falling apart, to me, is the most musically interesting, particularly with his band and all of that. And then just him falling apart. Like, I was really interested to see that part. So the last third of the movie was very interesting to me.
It's more, like, were you disappointed there wasn't enough about the music in the movie, and it's more about his personal way?
Well, I thought that it was impressionistic what they did with the music. Like, for example, when they show him go into the revival tent, and when they show him watching the older Black musicians playing music to show their influence, like I liked that, because I think a more straight mechanical biography like Bohemian Rhapsody would have been less interesting for Elvis. Meaning, my general impression of this movie is that the Elvis story has been told and retold, both as Elvis, but both as a million other rock stories. And so if it was just your
rise and fall,
Lincoln or rise and fall, or the Johnny Cash one, like if it was like that, I think it would be pretty boring. But because they did this kind of impressionistic view, particularly of his childhood, and the choice they had to have him running around with the Shazam lightning bolt, which was not true, but it was his favorite character. Things like that I really liked. And I think that having like an artiste, an auteur like Baz Luhrmann tell the story was the way to go, especially when you get into the kitschy parts. And I thought the decision to tell it from Colonel Parker.
Let's start there, because Vlad, we were watching it with my brother.
Can I give my theory?
Yeah.
I want to give my analysis. So the story is told from Colonel Tom Parker's perspective, who is his manager. And I didn't know any of this before, because I have not studied independently or formally Elvis's life story, Elvis Presley. But Colonel Tom Parker was his manager, but he was a very troubling character, quite controlling, and it seems very. He's the villain, essentially. He's the villain. It's told from his perspective. And what happens in the film is that Elvis, although very compelling to watch, is actually quite passive in the story. Although he has certain key moments and moments of change.
But I think that is very much.
I want to finish.
Oh, sorry.
So he's quite passive in the story. And my opinion as to why that is because Colonel Parker is the villain, and Elvis is this man that none of us, I mean, we could never assume to know what was going on in his mind and his heart, what he was thinking and feeling. And so rather than trying to tell the story from his perspective, they tell it from the Colonel's perspective, and thereby making Elvis, by the end of the film, truly a victim of the Colonel's doing, right? And by disempowering him, right, by taking away any agency that we should have the story told from his perspective, I think it reinforces that the Colonel really is the villain, and Elvis here in his demise, he is a victim of the Colonel and all the people around him who essentially leached off of him like a bunch of parasites. And it made him even more sympathetic, or you have so much empathy for him. And I think it works twofold. One, because like I said, I don't know how it would feel if it was told from, if telling it from his perspective, it might make it feel actually less authentic and less genuine, rather than have this more impressionistic version of him. So it works in that way to tell it from the Colonel's perspective. And then by adding that extra layer of this victimhood to his story, which was really heartbreaking. I mean, that ending, I was so heartbroken. So that's my opinion as to what I was told.
I like that they used it for the storytelling, because I think in a lot of ways, Elvis and Tom Parker, or whatever his real name was, are almost like they're indecipherable characters from history. Like, it's almost like no one has a straight story about either of these guys. And so when you have this like scoundrel, this liar telling the story, it makes it more interesting than doing like a regular objective or pseudo-objective third-party narrator.
And especially because, I'm going to add one more thing, sorry, Lil, especially because it's the Colonel as he's telling the story, is explaining why he is not the bad guy. He's not the villain. He didn't do anything wrong. But as you're watching every beat of the story, everything he does is so horrible. And it reinforces that he's a manipulator and a liar, and he can't be trusted, and nothing he says is real. Because anyway, so I think it works really well.
Well, and to go a step further, I think you couldn't have the movie in the first person, or have the narration be Elvis's narration, or really have him tell his story exactly like that. I think for all the reasons you said, but to go a step further, it would be like trying to speak for a god, or like he's so otherworldly at this point. He's such an icon, and he means so much to so many people still, that no one can really know him. And I think that it's done in a good way that you're left feeling you wanted more, because everybody wants more of him still today.
I don't know that I could go back and rewatch the whole film, but I would certainly go back and rewatch that opening scene where he goes into the revival tent, where he is doing the Christmas special, where he's on stage at the stadium. There are these scenes where the young man that plays him, Austin Butler, is just, he's so beautiful in the role. I guess in the first scene in the revival tent, it's some other kid actor, but I just thought it was so, I don't know, so moving. I woke up today still thinking about his performance.
What did you think of the casting?
Yesterday.
We saw this.
Yeah, we saw it last night.
Dad and Mom did not. I loved Tom Hanks in this movie. I loved Tom Hanks playing a villain. And Mom and Dad were like, they couldn't get past the makeup. They felt like,
the makeup I thought was done very well.
Tom Hanks, if you ever listen to this, I love you in every single thing you do, no matter what. I don't have a single bad thing to say about you.
I thought he was
You're the best, Tom Hanks. Was it unexpected for me to watch Tom Hanks play a villain? Yes. Was that a hard thing for me to overcome because I'm super aware of who Tom Hanks is? Yes. But do I think he did the absolute best performance, for this role that he could do? Absolutely. I think he acted the shit out of it. But it is hard for me to get over the Tom Hanks hump of seeing him as a villain. It's hard.
I loved it. I loved it. And when I put it in the context of him having played Mr. White in that thing you do, and like
You're
that he must. I mean, Mr. White is he's a cold character, but he's
much more sympathetic. I mean, he's not. Yeah,
he's not a bad person. Guy. He's just a businessman, whereas this guy is pretty evil. Anyways, so I like that. I think there were times. So musically, I really enjoyed the music and the songs and the way they remixed them and stuff like that. There was a whole bunch of remixes and.
The remixes were very cool.
And modern retellings of the songs and infusion of modern hip hop, I believe, in cases, right? I'm thinking back a little bit, but right? Is that correct? In the different mixes?
Yeah, he absolutely did. In that scene where he goes down to Beale Street to see hang with BB King, like they are weaving it in there. And so
to me, the milestone to me, that element of it was really, really compelling and interesting. And that's why you get Baz Luhrmann to do this movie. But then there were other times where I thought the sound was really strange, and maybe it was the theater I was in, but there were times where I was like, do I need a hearing aid or something? Like there were some like strange parts in the sound. Maybe it was better on your TV. We didn't see it in a like huge, amazing theater. And I think it would have been nice to have seen it that way. And then the Christmas special part of the movie, which is this great part where the Elvis does the famous comeback special that we're all famous, that we all are aware of, him in the black leather outfit that right his career. And I was pretty confident that this conflict behind the scenes about whether or not he's going to sing a Christmas song was not like an accurate telling of the story, but I loved it as this impressionistic vehicle for telling the whole story of Elvis in one like half-hour vignette within the movie. And I thought that was a really great. I thought that's why you do it. I think if you played it straightforward, it would have been a little more. Right.
You're condensing so much of a man's life into 2.5 hours. You have to that is there to help us understand the conflict between the Colonel and the commercialism and the kitsch, and just it being a whole money grab thing, and Elvis wanting to have some form of artistic integrity and ambition as an artist. And it's a great way of showing that clash rather than over so much time, but in one moment in, that like you said,
all right, Lily, let's talk about Priscilla and Elvis, because I thought I knew a lot about them, and I feel like the movie plays.
Well,
plays with the
quick.
timeline a little bit. I think they play with the timeline a little bit, because I thought that they had separated way before they actually showed them divorcing in the film. I thought that like they were already on the outs in 68, 69.
Oh, because you're saying that it looks like it's closer to the 70s, the late 70s.
It looks like
around
it's 1 year
Priscilla's
before he dies.
No,
it looks like it's 1 year.
I think they just go really fast at the end there, because when they show them about to separate, or once they've separated, Priscilla's still so little. She's like 4 years old or 5 years old.
You mean Lisa Marie? I mean, I know Priscilla was also too young for him, but
I mean Lisa Marie.
And that's something they don't talk about at all on this, which I'm surprised.
Right.
Right. Wasn't Priscilla underage when he?
Well, so that's the thing, is that she was 16, and he was 18.
No,
he was 20.
Sorry, he was 20. It was 20, about 23. Yeah, sorry. And she was about 16. And then, but they didn't officially start dating. They hung out in Germany together over the 2 years that he was there. But he had another girlfriend technically at the time. So, and like he also was dating somebody in Germany who then became his personal secretary. Like but they hung out. And she says,
Lily
Priscilla
knows all the ship stories.
Yeah. And Priscilla, I was telling Becky today, says that she stands by that they did not sleep together until they were married. Like that did not happen. And and so there was a long time, because it was 2 years that he was in Germany. Then she was 18. Then she went back to the States, which was a little bit later than that. I think it's like 6 years between when they met and they were married or something like that. It wasn't immediate. In the movie, it makes it look like it was immediate. But then they go back to the States. She's not living in Memphis. He brings her back and forth to stay with him. Eventually, she ends up staying with him. And then they get married and apparently consummate the relationship. So she was young when they met, but not actually that young when they got married. Like if you think about her being underage and stuff. So it's not as gross in the timeline that she explains, at least, that like maybe Jerry Lee Lewis, who literally married like a 14-year-old.
Who was his cousin?
Who was his cousin. Yeah. So like, I think it's on the scheme of things, not as
I will say,
as
I think Great Balls of Fire is a cooler movie than this.
You do? I mean, it's
I
interesting.
So.
I mean,
for me, the movie like is at its best during there's a few scenes that really stand out to me. The Ferris wheel, the Christmas special, and then the end as everything's falling apart. So musically, I love the stuff from 68, 69 and beyond, like starting with Suspicious Minds when he went back to Memphis, and he put together the Taking Care of Business band for those shows. I actually thought there was a really great moment where he didn't name the drummer, which was really interesting to me, but that drummer is supposed to be, I believe, Ronnie Tutt, who was this like absolutely like giant of an incredible drummer. And they really focused in on him during one of those scenes, but the arrangements, it was like over the top, but I also just I have 3 or 4 different records, like CDs and records from that era, the Vegas-y era, or some of it's from New York, but like, and I love it. And there's that shot, it's in the preview in the trailer, but that shot of him when he's down on his knees and he's changing into the different outfits on stage, like that was just incredible.
She was 21 when they got married. I just confirmed it.
Okay. So
older than our mom.
So yeah, exactly. Right. I was gonna say older than our mom, or the same age as our mom. And she got married.
She says they did not like their relationship. It was not, but like maybe more than a kiss. Was not more than like a kiss until they were married. So he was with other women, but
Clearly, it didn't bother her. It was the drugs that bothered her, according to
the movie, which again, it was like a bit much. I don't know. I mean, she approved the movie. She's alive and obviously remembers her whole life. She's not that old. So like clearly, maybe, like it's hard to argue if she was like involved or, that she approved of it. And if that's what the character is saying, then that's how she wants it to be remembered, I guess.
But she didn't write the movie.
No, but she gave it her blessing.
Fair enough.
Like very much so, her blessing. So did Lisa Marie.
And she was in Naked Gun 1, 2, and 3.
Exactly.
Gun,
yeah. So yeah.
And what's interesting is that I felt like this film, other than Tom Hanks, was there any other? For me, there were almost no other recognizable actors. It was which I enjoyed a lot.
The dad, Vernon. He's in Moulin Rouge, and he's on the show. He was the star of the show Rake, which is an Australian show that Dad recommended.
Oh, really?
So if your dad, you would have.
So Dad
knows more of the actors in this movie.
Dad was sort of. He seemed to like the movie when I talked to him about it, but he wasn't that into it. But there was a actor from Rake in it. I feel like that alone makes Dad give it 4 stars.
Yeah. It's the star of Rake, isn't it? Which is actually, so I had a question about that. Why do you think the dad's character, who clearly from some of the scenes they show contributed to Elvis's demise, why do you think they made his character so minimal and passive and not like
helpless? Yeah.
Well, I don't know about that. His dad was along for the ride. His dad was enjoying the fruits of all of it.
And I don't think his dad was really I think they show you that Parker gets Elvis on board because he gets the parents on board by getting Vernon on board and offering him this like amazing role as business manager. In no way, shape, or form is he necessarily a business manager. And I think that's clear, right?
But
although he managed his estate until he died.
But they make a very clear statement in that scene where Elvis is basically unconscious and Parker is like, get him on, no matter what, get that man on stage. And they look to Vernon to make the call and he says, get the doctor. I mean, like, that's a big statement.
Yeah. I think it's also, I got the sense the way they painted the character was that he didn't know, like, he didn't know better. He didn't want the gravy train to stop. He wasn't necessarily malicious and vindictive, but he was also Elvis
was spending all of his money, like bleeding money. And so
all of those guys were spending money. Right. They needed Elvis to be up there. It wasn't like they had a 401k.
Right. And so I think the dad was like, well, we can't sustain all of this if you don't go up there. Not even his own lifestyle. Clearly Elvis had no idea how much money he had, how much money he spent, none of that.
Yeah, well, that's the whole Memphis Mafia part of it. Another part that I really thought a great detail that I had read about and always found fascinating was the part about Elvis not going overseas, essentially because Tom Parker couldn't
leave
travel.
The country.
Yeah, that was amazing. That was really well done. And I really, so I thought that was fantastic. So overall, buy, rent, or meh this film?
Oh, I think I would buy it. I would buy it to have it to be able to like show my kids or something. And, and because I love the director and I think Austin Butler is going to win an Oscar and deservedly so. That performance was like shockingly incredible.
Really?
So yeah. I think his performance was as good, if not better, than Rami Malek as Freddie Mercury. And Elvis is, I think, a way more iconic person to have to embody. Like Freddie Mercury is very famous to like a chunk of the world and a chunk of an era, but Elvis goes beyond that. And I think he did an incredible job. The singing, that's him singing the whole time. That kid is singing, Shai. It's not
at the end of the movie, it's Elvis.
Yeah, but they show you Elvis.
They show you Elvis at the end of the movie. The rest of the movie, that's Austin Butler singing.
No, it's first of all, it's mixed, but it is a lot of him singing. But then when they got to the late 60s and 70s, they started using more of Elvis's voice, from what I read. when he was like
fine.
huskier and deeper.
Whatever.
First of all,
it's pretty amazing.
First of all, if you're telling me that he is better than Ram Charan Teja, who played Ram in RRR, I don't know. Not even close.
You think he should win the Oscar for Best Actor?
Yeah, are you kidding? Guy's amazing.
I guess. I mean,
amazing.
I guess.
Yeah. And a Jay Devon, who played the dad, as Best Supporting. And a Best Picture for RR. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Beck.
Speaking of what? No, go ahead.
No, I was just go. Don't worry, I'll put it in my words.
I think I would give it for Austin. I think for Austin Butler, it cinches it as a buy for me because I really would go back and rewatch. I don't think I'd have the stamina to rewatch
The
all
whole
2
thing,
hours and 37
but I would
minutes.
for sure go rewatch his
I
performance.
would love to go back and rewatch just certain scenes in it, for sure.
I would definitely go back. So I give it like a buy, like right above the edge of Rent for that same reason. What's interesting to me, and Allie and I talked about this when we saw the movie, is if they had done it as a limited series, although with that budget, I don't know if that would be possible.
That's exactly what I said. I said I would rather see the story as like a 6-part series or something.
And they did Elvis the early years when we were kids alone.
No, I would have loved to see with this cast and this style of how they did it. I'd love to see this as a series and really
because it's almost told in
story.
chapters. It's almost told in chapters.
Absolutely.
Anyway.
Lily, did I not just say the same thing an hour ago in the car?
Because I think I'd love to get more of his struggle and more of his process in the music and stuff like that. Like I don't need like 2 episodes dedicated to him being addicted to pills and dying, but a little bit more about his comeback and even his acting. I said to Becky, I know they can't show everything in the movie, but it was a big deal that he was in those movies, and I would have loved to like explore that, like his sort of acting ability. And
I mean, the part that I really love that they went into is that the first movie he did, he was a much better actor than everyone expected, and they were like, "Oh my God, here comes the next Marlon Brando or whatever." And,
right.
And then Parker, or I don't know if it was Parker or him, was like, "Yeah, but you can't make money off this, so we're gonna have you
turn out these sing along, sing and dance movies,
sing and dance exactly." Which it would it's sort of like Dave Matthews was delightful in Winn-Dixie, but
right.
Imagine if he. I'm joking.
Well, it's like Streisand. No, but it's like Streisand and Gaga, who are powerhouse, and Whitney Houston, like powerhouse singers and like iconic singers, but also had acting chops. Now I don't know if Whitney Houston you compared to Barbra Streisand, but it's a very few and far between, like who could have done. He probably could have done theater. He probably could have done anything. He seemed so incredibly talented, but was held back. Such a massive talent was held back, and he's the largest sold recording artist of all time, single solo recording artist of all time, most successful still. And Becky was like, and he never toured internationally.
That's
he
crazy.
Never went overseas to play a show.
And
he's still to this
Although
day.
I have to say, Fish hasn't played in Europe since like the 90s, so
But they're not the highest.
I'm joking.
Recording artists.
All right, let's get into our recs. So Elvis. I would say it's like a soft buy for me. I think it was good, but it's long. All right, Becky, what are you recommending these days?
Honestly, I saw this and I've been watching Mythic Quest. Still, I don't have anything new. I don't think I have anything new.
But how much are you enjoying Mythic Quest?
I'm enjoying it so much. I'm enjoying it so much. Even the episodes where I'm like, there's like 2 episodes just dedicated to CW's backstory. I'm like, he's not the reason I watched the show. I watched the show for Ian and Poppy, and David and Brad for sure. But he's not the reason I watch the show. But even those episodes are so well written and so
very powerful, very powerful, very powerful.
They're so compelling, even though that's not even the character I'm the most interested in. So it's very well made.
And Ashley Birch, who has to do those scenes with F. Murray Abraham, does a great job.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very cool. All right, Lily, what about you? What do you
I
recommend
watched
watching?
this. I finished Upload season 2, which
Oh, I never
I
watched
love.
it. Should I get back to it?
Oh,
Yes, it's so
yeah,
good.
so
I
cute.
really like season 2.
Is the show over or is there more?
Oh, there
think
must be more. There's a
supposed to be.
cliffhanger.
A
Oh,
cliffhanger.
there's more.
So I hope there's another one.
okay.
Yeah,
No,
and it's
Amazon doesn't.
It's adorable. Love that show. And I finished Loot season 1, which is also delightful.
I gotta watch that. I gotta finish watching that with Allie. Maya Rudolph,
Yeah.
like
I
one of
mean,
the
I haven't
greatest.
finished it.
National
I'm saving
treasure.
the last couple episodes to watch together.
National treasure. Shai, you made a good point about that show just for a sec, that like I can't really tell if like she's just supposed to be dumb or like it's a bit like it's hard to sometimes they make her seem just like really stupid, and you're like even if she's rich doesn't mean you're dumb just because you're rich.
Also
so I
because
don't
she was integral in her husband's success, so I think sometimes
it's like they play it a little bit.
They play it like
both
she
ways.
was rich for so times that she lost her sort of like sense of how to behave around people, and that sometimes
that I get. But then there's just like some stuff where they just like play her a little bit too dumb, and you're just sort of like, what? But whatever, it's great.
But she's so good.
She can do anything.
And Nat Faxon,
literally anything.
Her and Nat Faxon, I don't know how. Like, I don't know who figured out that they would be like. But to me, I was like in love with the two of them right away when the show started. So,
yeah.
Okay, cool. Wait, so let's see. Is it my turn for Rex? Because I have a bunch.
Yeah, I think so.
Because you guys got to keep up with me. Did I tell you that Allie and I saw Bullet Train? Have we talked since we saw Bullet Train?
No,
you said that you saw it.
You saw it, and you saw Bullet Train, but I got no feedback on either of those movies.
Okay, so I'll give you feedback on those quickly. Okay, Bullet Train delivers on his promise. Every minute of it is fun. It moves. It also shows you like. There's that thing where you can't really tell why the Netflix action movies feel like they're a photocopy of a photocopy. Mm-hmm. Like even the good ones that are kind of fun, like there's just something missing. Bullet Train could have easily been one of those, but it's not, because everybody is extremely present in that movie. And the side characters are played by not particularly, not as famous as Brad Pitt actors. And they are amazing and they bring it. And if they make sequels of Bullet Train with some configuration of those characters, I would watch it over and over and over again. And Brad Pitt is fantastic in it. And he's not even on screen the whole time. Like he's much more of a supporting. I mean, not supporting.
Oh, really?
He's not supporting, but in the movie, yes, he's the star, but it relies on all the other people that you're following being really good, and it works. Awesome. Nope I really enjoyed Nope a lot. Jordan Peele, I think he's like one of these filmmakers like Taika Waititi. He's going to be one of the guys that we're talking about, like Spielberg in 20 years, right? Like the way I freak out about E.T., like people are going to be freaking out about Jordan Peele movies. Nope, to me, as I was watching it, I was like, because I didn't read anything about it, I didn't know anything about it, and I was like, whoa, this is a lot like Jaws. And it seems that other people compare it a lot to Jaws, and that's a very strange comparison to make, because it is.
Because do you not see the bad thing till the very end? Is that it?
I mean, it's not just that. It's that if you love movies and you love Jaws, you kind of know movies. You're like, oh, this is like Jaws, but on its surface, it's not like Jaws. And the acting in it is like fantastic, but it's a little bit like, and I don't know if this is a fair comparison or not. For me, it's like Signs was to M. Night Shyamalan, in that you had Sixth Sense, like Get Out, like momentous, amazing Oscar-nominated movie. Then you have the next one, Unbreakable, compared to Us, which I think Us is even scarier and more intense. And I think about Us like all the time. I love Get Out,
Agreed.
but Us all the way through is beyond terrifying. Whereas the end of Get Out, I find like funny.
Right.
And so, which is good. I mean, which is part of why Get Out is great also. And then Nope, which also deals with the intergalactic, is like Signs, in that it's still really, really, really good. And it's definitely really, really good for a movie that involves aliens and other things. It's just like very creepy, but you're like, okay, whatever he does next will really, really define it. And if I were him, I don't know if I would make another horror movie. Like if I were him, like, first of all, I shouldn't tell that guy what to do at all.
I was to say, someone get a call into Jordan Peele. Shai's got advice.
He's a genius, but like, not that he should go make a comedy like Key and Peele, but I would love to see him make his Indiana Jones next. If he wants to, like, he can make whatever he wants, or his E.T. next, because I would like to see him, you know, I don't want people to go to his movie expecting like a horror movie, because Nope isn't really a horror movie. It's not like, it didn't scare me the way the other movies did. And I think had I known that, I you know, like the expectations were just a little bit off. So, so anyways, but like, just everything is so intentional in his movies, and the actors are so great. There's a great cameo from Keith David, sorry. Then I'm watching Letterkenny, which is so funny. And the third season, all I can say, if you grew up in Montreal, the third season will blow your mind. And like I said, I saw King Richard, which I liked, but also felt very
You missed
long.
the point. Sorry. Just some people get it, some people don't.
After about 45 minutes, I spent the rest of that movie just like all of us watching it. We're just Googling things about tennis and having tennis conversations and pausing them to watch Will Smith do some like amazing scene.
No, that movie, I was riveted.
And I will say, I suspect also, I have no doubt about his Oscar, and I have no doubt that is a good movie. It's good. But I also think Lily upgrades this a bit because John Bernthal is in it with a mustache. And I feel like John Bernthal...
Becky's the one who's obsessed with him, not me.
With him.
With Lily, because John they gave John Bernthal Jose's hair.
I'm not obsessed with him.
They gave
Becky
him Jose's hair.
I love tennis. And I think Serena and Venus are just fucking insane. Like I was fascinated. I wanted the movie to keep going. I didn't want it to stop.
I want the sequel about the two of them. That I would really love to see. And the kids were fantastic. Anyways, so that's what's happening here. And Becky, where can people follow you?
At PaperBK Princess on Twitter.
Lily, where can people follow you?
TGK Gomez on Twitter.
And you can follow me at Pancake and the Number 4 Table, at Friday Night Movie on Twitter and Instagram. The theme music is by What Does It Eat? And next time we'll be doing the show, it will be in person.